Hello everyone, my name is Bacteria, and as promised, here is a more detailed review of the iOS mobile beta for Old School RuneScape. The iOS beta was the second beta test Jagex performed for Old School RuneScape, following the first beta test, which was conducted on the Android platform back in February of 2018. The iOS beta test was much larger in scale compared to the Android one, which featured 2,000 players as 5,431 invites were sent out for this iOS beta. Originally, the beta was supposed to be live for just a week, starting on the 13th and ending on the 19th of April. However, it was posted in the news post update on the 19th of April that the beta had been extended for an additional week. I participated in the beta using an iPhone 7 Plus, so all of my thoughts and experiences are based on the gameplay from an iPhone 7 Plus. I assume that the performance is better on newer devices, so please keep that in mind throughout the entire video. Now, starting off, the size of the Old School RuneScape app itself is really small, coming in at just 109.7 megabytes. To put the size into perspective, I've decided to compare it with some other well-known apps. Clash of Clans, for example, uses up 113.2 megabytes of storage space, Hearthstone comes in at 3.1 gigabytes, while Pokemon Go is at 273.3 megabytes. Because OSRS is an MMO, you need to stay connected to the internet at all times in order to play. Luckily, the game cache can be pre-downloaded and saved as soon as you first open up the mobile app, which leads to much less data being used per hour. Over the course of these 2 weeks, I mostly played on my mobile data, as my Wi-Fi connection at home is really bad and I was experiencing lag spikes while connected to my home Wi-Fi. Using my mobile data with my LTE connection, however, I experienced no lag spikes and the connection was very stable, unlike my home Wi-Fi. While playing, I was also keeping track of how much mobile data I actually used up per hour. My average use was around 2 megabytes an hour, with spikes in usage going up to 4 megabytes in an hour. Considering that most people have fast and stable Wi-Fi at home and are only going to use mobile data on the road, this usage is nothing short of amazing, because it means that people can afford to play OSRS on the go without having to break the bank on the most expensive data package available. While you may not have to break the bank on your mobile data package, you might just have to do it while shopping for a new power bank, as the battery usage per hour is much higher than what was stated after the Android beta ended. I am going to split the battery usage into two categories, the first being regular usage, while the second one is playing while using Apple's low power mode, which actually made a pretty significant difference. On average, I used up 33.8% of my battery per hour while playing Old School Mobile without having low power mode enabled. This unfortunately means that my phone spent most of these 2 weeks charging, as my battery was gone almost faster than it recharged. The 33.8% is just an average number out of all my tests, however, the lowest battery consumption was 29% an hour, while the highest went up to 38.4%. Using Apple's low power mode was a bit more interesting. While I haven't played with it enough to have more conclusive data, it averaged out at just under 25% of battery usage per hour. However, it worked pretty weird and I really can't explain why. The lowest power consumption using low power mode I got was 12% per hour, which is an excellent number. However, in most of my other tests, the battery usage was back at the standard 30% or so per hour. Due to this, I decided to play using regular mode most of the time, as low power mode means my screen would turn off in less than a minute, making AFKing a bit more difficult. Before moving on to the gameplay, I want to take a look at the interface. At first glance, the interface is very reminiscent of the classic Old School interface, however, there are a few pretty significant changes. The first big change is the chat menu location, which has been moved to the top of the screen. This was done because the virtual keyboard's location is at the bottom by default, so having the chat box at the top of the screen prevents the two overlapping and making it difficult to see. Unfortunately, this means that the chat box can often overlap with other interfaces, such as the time remaining in Pyramid Plunder or the pay dirt stored in Motherlode Mine. While there is a workaround available by just closing the chat box interface altogether, it unfortunately renders you unable to see the game chat or any other means of communication. The other big change is the decision to split the inventory, prayer, spellbook, and other icons and place half of them on the left and the other half on the right side of the screen. While splitting them up makes quite a lot of sense, the decision of which icons go on the left and which icons go on the right could use some additional thought. For example, the Friends and Ignore list can both be found on the left side of the screen, while the clan chat menu has been placed on the right side. This is the one instance where I would really like us to have some customization options to allow us to choose which icons go on the left and which ones go on the right. Another interesting change is the ability to completely close the minimap so you can get better usage of your screen space. While this is certainly nice to have, I've gotten so used to playing with the minimap that minimizing it just looks weird and out of place. The last change to the interface is the addition of the function button on the bottom left of the screen. This is one of the biggest and most welcome changes to the mobile interface, as it makes interacting with the game much easier. Right-clicking the button allows you to set the function mode, which basically changes the way your clicks work. The different modes you can choose from are keyboard mode, where each of your taps or clicks on the function button opens up the virtual keyboard, single tap mode, which is pretty much the same as using one button mode on the regular client, meaning all of your clicks automatically become right clicks, and tap to drop mode, which is the same as using shift drop. Everything you tap on in your inventory will drop to the ground. If you don't like the new mobile interface, you also have the ability to change back to the legacy one in the settings. However, as of right now, the legacy interface leaves a black bar on the right side of the screen, which is in my opinion very distracting and takes away from the gameplay experience. Old School Mobile features the same gameplay in the same game world as the main game. You don't need to create a new character, you can simply log into your existing character and carry on from there. The worlds that were used in the beta were regular worlds with regular people playing on traditional PC clients, and surprisingly, it worked very well. There was no noticeable lag or any other glitches. While it does take a while to get used to the mobile interface and different controls, once you do, it feels very rewarding and fun to play. While playing with a mouse and keyboard certainly has many benefits and is in general faster when it comes to more finer movements, almost everything can also be completed on mobile. In fact, I'd say that doing simple things such as cooking or fletching is more enjoyable on mobile than it is on the PC. However, assuming players are only going to cook and fletch on mobile is ridiculous, so I will break down the different aspects of the game in the following sections. Walking around in the world of RuneScape on mobile feels familiar, although different at the same time due to the mobile controls. And that isn't necessarily a bad thing. For me, it helped me see the somewhat stale environment that I have been looking at for the past few years in a brand new light. A big part of making the experience enjoyable is the fact that the game runs very smoothly. Doing some basic things such as checking up on my GE offers, doing my farm runs and buying my daily battle staffs was all easily possible and pretty enjoyable. Perhaps I needed to put in a bit more effort during my mobile herb runs, as the smaller screen size made it a bit harder to see if I had planted the herb or not, but thanks to the pinch to zoom option, even that was resolved quickly. Since everyone has a different playstyle and not all people are focused on maximum efficiency at all times but prefer the old ways of AFKing in banks and just talking to people, I wanted to speak about the social aspect as well. Tapping next to your name in the chat box brings up your virtual keyboard and prepares you to type out your message. While I personally don't enjoy typing in landscape mode too much, it's an option for chatting with your clanmates and friends on the go. The only thing I found a bit annoying was the fact that there was no way for me to split the friends chat like in the main game, which led to me missing out on a few messages from my friends. Another useful feature that I was missing is the ability to press tab to reply to your latest private message, but other than that, everything else seems to be working as intended. As everyone is well aware of, skilling is one of the most, if not the most important aspect of RuneScape. Of course, this means that it was one of the things that I focused pretty heavily on while testing the beta. And for the most part, I was actually pretty impressed. As I've already mentioned earlier, simple skills such as cooking or fletching actually felt better while doing them on mobile. The new bank interface of mobile played a big part in that, as I could set up custom withdrawing options with just one click. That meant that I could tap on my current ones, which acted as a left click, and I would get a full inventory of them ready to be cooked. It felt even better while fletching, as I could set up a custom withdraw number of 14 and just tap on my bowstrings and unstrung bows and have an inventory set up instantly for a new round of stringing. Another very welcome change to skilling is the addition of the previously mentioned function button that allows you to easily drop items from your inventory with just a single tap, thus making woodcutting and barbarian fishing much easier to do on mobile. As far as other skills are concerned, the rule of thumb seems to be that the simpler a skill is, the better it is to do on mobile. I can't really see tick manipulation methods being used too much, as it's just too hard with the right clicking being the way it is. However, simple methods such as jamrock mining or pyramid plunder work just fine, despite being a bit more click intensive than your average skill. Overall, I'd say that skilling on mobile is definitely doable, especially for lower level players who aren't really using the more advanced click intensive methods, or for people that don't mind taking a slight hit in experience gained per hour. The other important part of the game, and for many people, including myself, the best part of the game, is PVMing. While I didn't attempt one-tick prayer flicking, as honestly I just don't know how to do it, I want to start this section off by saying it is possible as other people have done it before, so yes, it is possible if you were wondering. At first I was a bit skeptical about PVMing on such a small screen, but as it turned out it's not really too big of a deal. Doing simpler PVM tasks such as camping Koresks and gargoyles as you usually would on an alt account was very easy, although it was a bit hard to see the drops due to the smaller screen. Thankfully, the pinch to zoom option came in very handy once again. Nightmare Zone was the place where PVMing on mobile really shined. Once again, I think it comes down to the fact that it's such a simple activity where you can just AFK for long periods of time and watch the XP come in. Because the game runs so smoothly, it was also possible to prayer flick to even further extend my Nightmare Zone session, but for me Nightmare Zone is all about the AFK aspect, so I did that for the most part. However, I think most people are interested in how viable mobile is for real bossing. At least I know that's what I was interested in the most. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to test out all of the bosses, but the ones I did produced some very interesting and mostly pleasing results. While I didn't find any boss that I would say is better to do on mobile, as all of them have some minor issues related to mobile controls, be it PKRs at Callisto, right-clicking to walk under NPCs while tanking, or just misclicking due to the smaller screen at places like Workout, I would still say the majority of them are pretty fun to kill and the kill times are only slightly slower than usual. The boss I had the hardest time with was Zora, however, I did manage to kill it after being resurrected at the end of the kill thanks to the Western Elite Diary. One of the main reasons why I had such a difficult time killing Zora is the fact that gear switching on mobile is slower and more difficult than it is with a mouse. For comparison, I decided to test out a 10-way switch on mobile and on my PC, and while I am far away from being one of the best switchers in old school, you can see the difference in speed on the screen right now. I also found it quite difficult to use my Vengeance spell, which brings me back to my point about the interface being split up in a weird way. I would have preferred my spellbook to be located right next to my inventory, as it would make for a faster transition between them, especially at a boss like Zora, where speed is key. I know this part may have seemed overly negative, but please keep in mind that I only had beta access for 2 weeks while I've been playing RuneScape since 2007. Because of that, all the actions on the PC version feel natural to me, while I'm still not used to the mobile controls. I'm sure that in the future, once mobile comes out of the beta stages and gets a full release, people will start to adapt and develop muscle memory on mobile screens as well, meaning more efficiency and, most importantly, more fun while PVMing on mobile. But for now, I would say PVM on mobile does its job, offering a quick and pretty enjoyable experience, but it's nothing to write home about. If you only came to this video to see the part about PKing, then I'm terribly sorry, but unfortunately that is the one activity that I haven't tried at all. I don't PK in the main game, and I can't see myself PKing on mobile either. What I can offer you, however, is my opinion on how PKing would feel on mobile. And unfortunately, I just don't think it would work very well. In my opinion, the armor switches on mobile are too slow to be competitive, casting Vengeance or other spells is a bit difficult, certainly more so than in the regular version. There are no F keys that you can use to one-tick switch into your special attack weapon and attack with it, right-clicking takes too long. Overall, it just seems like you would be at a huge disadvantage while playing on mobile. Now, I'm not saying it's gonna be impossible to get kills. I'm sure some of the better PKers of this community are gonna adapt to mobile and release some great mobile PKing content. I just feel like it's gonna be much more difficult to be competitive in the PKing meta while playing on mobile. But then again, I'm not a PKer, these are just my opinions after testing out the game and thinking about all of the things I see PKers do on PKing videos. And I honestly just can't see it working out too well, but hopefully the PKing community can prove me wrong, as I would love to see all 3 parts of the game benefit from this mobile release. Considering this was a closed beta test, I was expecting to encounter quite a few glitches along the way. I was pleasantly surprised, however, as I personally didn't find any major glitches. I did find some minor graphical ones, but those can be found in the main game as well, and they don't really take away from the gameplay experience at all. Especially considering this was a closed beta test, I feel like it went way better than expected. After browsing the forums a bit, I know that some people have encountered a few more serious glitches, however this is what a beta is for, and I'm sure that by the time the official release comes out, or perhaps even by the time the open beta comes out, all of these major glitches will be patched. The real issue with this mobile beta weren't the glitches for me, but there was a few other things that I feel like I should bring to your attention. One of the first things I noticed is that my phone gets hot, and I don't mean warm, I mean pretty hot, up to the point where I had to set my phone down for a couple of seconds. I did browse the forums a bit to make sure it wasn't a problem on my end, and sure enough, other people reported this issue as well. The heat is probably due to the pretty big battery drain, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed that Jagex can figure out what is wrong with the battery drain and fix the issue, and with that hopefully the heating issue will disappear as well. There are a couple of more issues. I've mentioned some in the previous parts of the review, such as the smaller screen making it harder to see, the weird decision on which icons go on the left and which on the right, but none of them are really anything game breaking. It's mostly to do with some quality of life and interface improvements. A lot of people, for example, have posted about removing the slight gap between the edge of the screen and the icons on both the left and right sides of the screen. While the gap is barely visible, I did fall victim to misclicking on it a few times and having my character walk to a random spot on the map. Another pretty annoying thing is that you are logged out if you go out of range of your Wi-Fi and your phone automatically switches to your mobile data. While I realize this probably has to do with keeping our account secure, it would still be nice if I then have to log back in every time that happens. There were a couple of other issues as well, but I'm not gonna talk about them as they are really minor and I really don't want to turn this into a longer video than it is necessary. I would just like to end this section by saying that while Old School Mobile certainly has flaws, I believe that Jagex will do a great job at fixing them, and even now in the closed beta, the game looks like it's really close to being ready for a full release. Looking back at what I said in my review, hopefully I didn't come off too critical. I just wanted to point out all of the issues with the current stage of the game and give my thoughts and opinions on how things work. Please keep in mind that a lot of the stuff I talked about is subject to change and will probably change by the time the full game comes out. That being said, I've really enjoyed these 2 weeks of having access to the mobile version of the game. My plan at first was to exclusively play on the mobile version for 2 weeks, however that lasted for a total of 4 days. Not because the game was bad, I just think that the mobile version and PC version complement each other so well it would be a shame not to experience both at the same time. The PC version of the game is more for the hard yards of gameplay, such as bossing and intense killing, while the mobile version does an excellent job of just keeping you entertained and connected with the world of Galinor while you are away from your trusty PC. Once the full release rolls out, I truly believe this game will become one of the most popular games on the mobile market, and hopefully bring in a ton of new players that will help us grow our community even further. With that said, maybe let me know down in the comments what do you think, if you disagree with something I've said, and most importantly, if you're looking forward to the release. I have to admit, it's been a bit hard to just say goodbye to the mobile version after 2 weeks of use, but I am looking forward to the full release when I can experience Old School RuneScape on the go once more.